WPLG 715, Fireman Kenny's on the air, helping you to stay safe in a world where danger never takes a vacation. May has been declared as Mental Health Awareness Month. On this episode of the Fireman Kenny Show podcast, we talked to Jeff Gauthier, Kevin Brode, and Brent Jones about mental health strategies. Welcome back to another installment of the Fireman Kenny Show podcast. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to the Fireman Kenny Show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or whatever platform you're listening to the show. The National Alliance on Mental Illness, or NAMI, has declared May as Mental Health Awareness Month. With us on this episode to talk about positive mental health strategies are Jeff Gauthier, Kevin Brode, and Brent Jones. Also, for our Milwaukee area listeners, be sure to stop by Ascension Columbia St. Mary's Hospital Prevention in the Park event on Thursday, June 4th from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. at North Point Water Tower Park across from the hospital campus. The National Fire Sprinkler Association valve trailer will be on display, as well as numerous other displays for community risk reduction. Before we begin the podcast, we would like to mention our sponsors. For over a century, the National Fire Sprinkler Association has been advocating for a stronger industry and a safer world by promoting fire sprinklers in model codes and legislation. Their mission is simple: to protect lives and property from fire through the widespread acceptance of the fire sprinkler concept. Be sure to follow the National Fire Sprinkler Association on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. You can visit the National Fire Sprinkler Association website, www.nfsa.org. We would also like to thank our friends at Fire Suppression Solutions, distributor of fire suppression products for the fire service and for home use. You can follow Fire Suppression Solutions on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Now a word from Fire Suppression Solutions.
Fire can strike without warning, leaving you with precious little time to react. And if you are not prepared, the damage can be devastating to life and property. In the blink of an eye, your home or business could be on fire, with flames doubling in size every 30 seconds, leaving you helpless and unable to respond. Don't let this nightmare become a reality. That starts with being prepared. Our fire suppression products are designed to equip you with an effective response to any fire emergency, all while limiting additional damage, making you the true first responder, giving you the peace of mind that you have what you need to keep your loved ones and property safe until more help comes. Do you have a plan to respond to a fire emergency at your home or business? Protect your family, pets, and property with the tools from Fire Suppression Solutions. Contact us today and finish putting your plan into effect before it's too late.
For more information on Fire Suppression Solutions products, you can visit firess.us. Welcome back to another installment of the Fireman Kenny Show podcast. The National Alliance on Mental Illness, or NAMI, has declared May as Mental Health Awareness Month. With us on this episode are friends of the show, Kevin Brode and Jeff Gauthier, as well as longtime listener, first-time caller, loves the topic and hates the show, the man, the myth, the legend, Brent Jones. Guys, thanks for being here and welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us, Kenny.
Awesome.
Kevin Brode, recently retired, almost a year now, from West Allis after 27 years there. And I'm still teaching out WCTC. Been there for the last 16 years. And this is actually my fourth podcast with you. So thanks for having me.
Awesome. Good to see you, Kevin. Good to see you, Kenny. Jeff Gauthier, recently retired. Depends on your perspective of the term recently, but it's coming up on 4 years now. Retired from Milwaukee Fire after 22 years with them, 4 years as a volley out in the falls prior to that. So he had 26 years in the fire service, and then it takes a while to get used to retirement, right? So like any good firefighter, we find other projects to do, so I'm still involved in peer support, do some gigs for the IFF, and some teaching and consulting here and there in different places, so enjoy doing all of that. We're coming into summer, so hopefully some more golf and some more motorcycling, but yeah, super happy to be able to be here, and really excited about seeing Brent too.
Hey Kenny, thanks I think for inviting me over to this. This is great. Brent Jones, retired lieutenant, Milwaukee Fire Department. I was commander of Milwaukee Fire Honor Guard for 11 years, commander of the Professional Firefighters of Wisconsin Honor Guard, and recently appointed commander of the IAFF Honor Guard.
So, Jeff, in your intro, you talked about being the IAFF 5th District Peer Support Coordinator. And Kevin, you just went through peer support training. Why don't you talk about the peer support training that you went through?
So that was back in February in Oak Creek. It was a 3-day conference. Basically, I wanted to give back. I wanted to help out. So I knew this was a great way to do that. So, and in fact, it just so happens Jeff was one of the instructors there in the class. So that was a bonus because at least I knew somebody. I went with another buddy of mine who's retired from West Allis as well. I learned a lot in the class, quite honestly, what to do and what not to do in certain situations. And I want to keep going. I want to take more classes, and I want to get more involved with it. I'd like to be on some type of team whether it's going to travel to help with counseling or whatever, eventually get into a position like that.
I think one of the cool things, too, that we talked about, so just kind of a point of clarification. So my role in the 5th District, IFF 5th District, I serve on the Behavioral Health Committee. So that is kind of like a pipeline from the rank and file firefighter up to me, up to their union president, whatever, in our district, so that as we see changes in the fire service as well as our individual members, the needs that they have, that we can address those so that the IFF continues to put out the 2-day in-person peer support training or the virtual training, the resiliency classes. We've got a bunch of changes coming, so that's kind of that voice that we have for our membership. That class, we did the CISM class and the mental health first aid. So that was myself and Kristen Harride. Kristen Harride's the local instructor for critical incident stress management and group crisis intervention. That really, it kind of touched off that opportunity for me. I always look at it be interesting, like your foray into it. Like we talked, I think the last time we were together, like it's just an extension of the kitchen table. That's all peer support really is. And we put some fancy terms to it, right?
Right.
I know what it is from my perspective, being involved in it a long time and like teaching some of the classes and teaching with Kristen. Curious, like your perspective as a new retiree, like what did you pull from that? Like I always talk about, it's just having the conversation, learning how to have some of those conversations. Like what did you pull from it?
That's a great question because things that I thought I should be saying to an individual or maybe to a group. Oh, this is a no, don't say that. Like, whether it's, I know what you're going through kind of thing. Like,
sure.
No, don't say it. All the way up to the point where if we're talking to a member who is telling us that I have a plan,
right,
and I know exactly what I'm going to do,
right,
then it's like, okay, we need to call that professional in, and Kristen did a fantastic job in that class. Absolutely loved the class. It was fantastic. I learned a lot in the class, and I want to know more.
Yeah.
So I'm at that point where I've got more free time, and I want to take more classes and keep going with it.
Yeah. And I think, too, that particular topic, right, if we talk about suicide awareness, having the difficult conversations, like that's the hard part. Everybody's super worried about, with any class we do, like, what if this or what if that? We always, the fire service is still the fire service. We prepare for the 5th alarm fire, right?
Right.
We were talking about that before.
Yes.
Most of it is just the interpersonal, the connection, the conversation. But hey, if we have to have that conversation, we have to ask a member about if they're feeling suicidal, to be direct with it, to know what our follow-up plan is, and then know what the plan of action is afterwards. That takes some of the fear out of it.
Well, that's funny because I talked to a buddy of mine who's currently on the job, and we talked about this mental health thing, and he said, would he feel comfortable talking to somebody that wasn't on job? He's like, no, they have no idea what we go through and what we do and what we see. I'd feel way more comfortable talking to somebody who's been in my shoes, right? They know what I've seen and done, and it makes a lot of sense to me.
Right, and oftentimes we talk about that connection alone, like you said. All right, I want to be direct to my question, and I know that this individual needs a higher level of care.
Yeah,
right? We know that, but if they're willing to sit with Kenny, or they're willing to sit with you, or willing to sit with me and share and hold space, and if you're presenting to me in such a fashion, I'm worried about your safety, that I have to say, hey, Kevin, are you thinking about killing yourself?
Right.
Like, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Right? If you're willing to share the yes or the maybe, that we know simply talking about it starts to slowly break down the barriers and make survivability more achievable for that individual. We're going to get to a higher level of care, but what matters is that moment between us right now.
Yeah.
And that person might trust us, but that opens the door for, like, dude, here's where we're at. Like, I want to get you in touch with somebody that's super cool and understands this.
Right.
And, like, that's the Kristen. That's the Dr. Goldman. I think we talked about her last time. My friend Skinner. Like, there's different people that are out there. Like, okay, here's our higher level of care, as well as individuals that are vetted and speak our language. Those are the biggies.
Absolutely.
And then if I trust that, if I tell you, like, all right, I want you to go see my friend Kristen, right? Especially with the classes that we just did, you've got an introduction with Kristen. You've seen her. That's somebody that you've seen, known. So as we expand that network, and like we talked about joining the state map team and the other classes, right? Like what that looks like. She's got exposure to individuals. She speaks our language.
Yes.
And she knows, as we build out that network statewide, other clinicians that have either been in that class or that we've worked with, or Kenny calls me and says, hey, I worked with this professional in Port Washington, or I worked with, my friend Laura in Port Washington. Like, all right, I know I can send you to her because she speaks our language and gets it, right? So that then puts you in touch with somebody that, like, if I don't trust this process, but I trust that you trust it,
right?
Sometimes that's just enough.
That's huge.
Yeah.
That's big, yeah.
So let's talk about some of the safety factors when we're dealing with people, when you're asking that question, are you suicidal? So on the previous episode, we had Kelly Anderson from Ascension St. Joseph's Hospital talking about gun locks and how making sure if someone has a gun lock, that actually kind of prohibits the amount of time they have to act, because if they have to unlock a gun, it might keep them from actually committing suicide from the gun. So what kind of things can we do when we're dealing with a potential suicidal person that you're dealing with as a peer support to prevent any further action that could be devastating in their lives?
That's a tough one. So many rabbit holes we can go down. I will go super fast on a couple of things, and we'll make sure that it hits. There's oftentimes we either are sitting in that one-on-one interaction, and there's not the plan for me to be safe as the peer supporter, where all of a sudden it's either to knock on the door in the office at work, or that 2:00 in the morning phone call, or you're sitting talking with a buddy. Safety is paramount. I prefer, if I'm going to send any of my trained peer supporters anywhere, that they're going in teams of 2. If we know that this is a situation that's difficult, and maybe a person has been suicidal in the past or has had a plan in the past, I want to send 2. I don't want to overwhelm the member, but
is that common? Or you would rather have 2 there than just?
I would rather
an
have
individual.
2.
Okay, all right.
I'm not
Makes
saying
sense.
that I haven't done
By
one-on-ones.
yourself. Yeah.
I've done
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
The last time I did that with an individual, my wife and my clinician that I was working with were not super happy with me, right?
Sure.
In that, my wife knew exactly the location I was going to. Mm-hmm. My wife knew the address. The clinician I was working with knew the address, knew the individual, and we had a stop time. I'm like, hey, I'm going to check with you at this time. I also had previous experience with that individual, so I felt pretty safe. But there's stops in there. More directly to your question, like there are people that are better at it than I am. I love gun locks. I love the thought of a gun lock. Having that conversation, we could do 17 podcasts on what they would call the removing lethal means, whether that's guns, ropes, medications. Guns is the big one, right? We're in Wisconsin. We're hunters. I like the thought of gun locks. Sometimes, like if you come to me and say you want to take my guns, that's a tough conversation, you might not get them.
Yeah.
Right? I have a safety plan in my gun cabinet at home, and at the very top, it's what I call the interrupters. That safety plan says if these 3 people ask for my guns, they automatically get them, no questions asked. Right? I filled that out when I was in a good spot, right? Because I've struggled with stuff over the years, right?
Yeah.
So I know my 3 ride or dies, if they ask for them, I'm doing some stuff that's not right, and they get them. Not everybody's going to have that, right? But there's a really, really good book out there by Dr. Shauna Sprainer called Warrior. Fantastic book, and it really goes in depth about removing lethal means. Gun locks are what we would call an interrupter. I always tell people, like, hey, what's going to interrupt that thought process? On top, inside of my gun case is a picture of my dog. Does that stop me? Is it my kids? Is what's in between me and that next step? Sometimes removing guns or gun safety is you might not want to give me your gun, but you'll let me put a lock on it and I have the key.
Okay.
All right, you still have possession of your firearm,
Sure.
but I've got the key. And then we work on what that looks like coming back. And at any point, I can't stress it enough, at any point that if you're taking guns from somebody as a trained peer supporter, you need a higher level of care.
So
you're worried about
So
their
this
safety.
is you actually going to an individual's house?
Yeah,
Or
I
where?
did.
And
Yeah.
okay. Is that common though? Do you?
That's not fair because
It doesn't sound like it. Yeah.
it is and it isn't.
Okay. Sure.
It's hard because I always tell people, like, I want, if you're going to do that, I want with 2. Or I think the more common scenario is like a wellness check.
Sure. Okay.
So that, well, like, hey.
So they don't know you're showing up?
They
Or do
necessarily don't know that you're showing up.
okay.
Like, so we've had that a lot too. We see that in the fire service, all right? You know, one of our members doesn't show up. Somebody makes a phone call. Hey, you know, dude's not here.
Hey, can you go check on my
Do a
make sure
wellness
it's okay?
check.
Yeah. Sure.
So at the point that we're going to do a wellness check, 98.5% of the time, I want law enforcement there with me.
Sure. That makes sense. I mean, you're right.
Right?
Yeah,
And that
absolutely.
gets people, like, because then the first conversation is, well, I don't want to jam guy up. I don't want to jam this
Yeah.
man or woman up.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you're either nobody, you're not returning phone calls, you're not, right, either maybe you were late, maybe it's not your duty day, but nobody's heard from you for 3 weeks. I want law enforcement there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, I've done that with law enforcement and without law enforcement. I'm more comfortable with law enforcement there. My experience been in the greater Milwaukee area, individuals are really, the police officers that I've worked with have been exceptional. Not only in working with behavioral health, mental health, highly intense situations, but like, all right, what do we got to do? Slowing everything down, taking a breath. Like, because you open the door and the police are standing there, that's no fun for you either.
That's a little different.
You're
Yeah.
a firefighter. Yeah. You know that the police are there. Things just changed.
So, Jeff, you're talking about those wellness checks, and even though those can sometimes be a little stressful for the person who you're doing the wellness check on, but at the end of the day, how well are those wellness checks received by that person?
So wellness checks, right, can be perceived so many different ways. At the end of the day, we want the member to know that they're cared about, they love them, right? We want to get them into a position of safety. That could be anywhere from just a standard conversation to working with law enforcement. The goal, again, is as a trained peer supporter, I know my lane. I know where I'm supposed to be, right? I'm not a clinician. I'm not a therapist. I'm not treating. I'm not diagnosing. This person typically needs a higher level of care, and I should be working with a clinician or a therapist to get them to that. If I can get them to agree to see somebody or meet somebody, that's the win right there, because then they can help us keep that member safe. There are plenty of members, like there's people that won't talk to me anymore. I get that. That's fine. If they're still here and mad at me, I'm okay with that, right? If I've had some go really well, and I've had some go, poorly. It's just we will always try, and as we teach people, try to meet people where they're at. And again, if mental illness is involved, right? That's a difficult conversation to have sometimes, because the four of us sitting here having a conversation can have a rational conversation, but if I'm in a dark spot, it's hard for me to accept the fact that there's 3 other people in a room that love me, right? I don't feel that it's so dark that doesn't make sense to me, right? In if we open the door and law enforcement is standing there as firefighters, we know what happens on a run if law enforcement is there, and that's not a knock on law enforcement. Like I said, almost to an individual, the law enforcement agencies that I've worked with in the greater Milwaukee area are absolutely fantastic to work with and want to get our member to safety. That's the overall goal. And sometimes, most of the times we have the ability to accomplish that, but it is really taken on how, to your point, Kenny, like how does a member perceive it also depends on where they're at mentally and physically in that moment as well.
So we did start out a little heavy on this episode because of the peer support training that you guys have gone through, and we want to actually talk about mental health, and there still are probably a lot of firefighters and a lot in the general public who have no idea what that really means. So what is mental health?
At the end of the day, mental health I believe starts with the individual. It's boots on the ground, and what are you doing to take care of yourself? We all know when we have good days and bad days, right? And we can put all kinds of different, is there, anxiety, depression, anger, like all the things, but what am I doing to take care of myself? The big buzzwords that come around in the fire service in the last couple of years were like work-life balance. How do I balance? I don't know. Yeah. I just want balance in general, which my wife will, throw a coffee cup at my head for saying balance on a podcast because I'm the least good at it. Is that the right verbiage? But where's the balance? Do I have are there things in my life that negatively affect other things in my life? Right? That matters. Do I get up? Do I work out? Do I go for a walk with the dog? Can I get outside in the morning? Like, can I enjoy work? Can I enjoy life outside of work? Like that overall balance. Everybody, I think Kenny said it, everybody's going to have their stuff, man. Everybody's going to have their stuff. I think the minute we think we're the only ones going through something, that's when we start to make that shift towards that feeling of being alone.
Mm-hmm. I think good mental health, a lot of people think that means you're happy all the time. It doesn't necessarily.
Right. No, it doesn't.
Right? It doesn't mean that. So it's dealing with everyday stress, maintaining relationships, whether it's between you and wife or at work or whatever it happens to be, adapting to change, and then recovering from any challenges that you have.
And sometimes that gets really hard to figure out, right? Like learning where that, where have I just grade that line from, it was just a bad day, to it's not just a bad day, it's a bad everything.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that was, like, for me, that was one of the biggest things that I just thought I was just always angry and an asshole, and
so did we.
and none of you were wrong. But, it's when you're, like, literally angry all the time, and like, in the classes when they say, or, counselors, when you start to lose interest in the things that you like, that's where the red flag should go up, and for me, that never happened.
I think that's not unusual, too, for red flags. Like, when we start to go down, for lack of a better expression, that rabbit hole of, like, I'm angry all the time, well, we're just moving from one thing to the next, and you put the next thing in a box, the good thing and the bad thing. When all of them start going in the box so that I can just get to the next thing, we don't see our own red flags, right? That's the hard part, because then our next thought is like, well, if you had my life, you'd do it this way too, right? And then really what it comes down to is our coping mechanisms are currently working. Me being angry all the time is sustaining. I'm not nice to be around, but I'm sustaining, and that's becoming my superpower, because now I took, 6 after midnight, and then the dog was sick, and then the furnace went out, and why wouldn't I be angry? But me being angry, and I have a very dear friend that says anger is a secondary emotion, right? So if I'm just angry all the time, that's a protective factor for me. That keeps everybody else at bay. That fuels me, right? Coffee, beef jerky, and anger.
Yeah.
And that works until it's not sustainable anymore. And I think we don't see our red flags then, because that has been a protective factor until either somebody points it out or something breaks.
So would we say that when it comes to the anger coming out, would we say that since firefighters, and just talking about the firefighting side, that firefighters are type A personalities, that it's going to come out as anger more than anything else, more than sadness, more than anything else, because of what we deal with and how we're taught to deal with things?
When were you taught to deal with things? We didn't do that in fire. We didn't do that in Fire One.
No, you're right. You didn't. No.
No, and just knowing what I know now, you look at, the different videos or TikToks or whatever you watch, and they say we can be some of the most calm people in the most chaos, but then the smallest thing at home will set us right off.
That you are absolute. That is 100% correct. Because yes, I noticed that. I think coming back home, and all of a sudden I would just lose it over something stupid, and my wife would be like, "What?" She's like, "Why don't you go back to work?" I don't know.
Yeah,
Okay.
well,
Yeah,
I just might. Damn it.
I'm gonna go back.
right?
I am gonna. Yeah, I'm
Right.
going back in a couple of days. But yeah. It was very difficult. Yeah, for sure.
When you walk in and there's crumbs on the butter knife, right? And that pisses you off.
That sets you? That's what sets you off?
That's a hypothetical situation, not
okay.
reality.
Or the center cut cake. I mean, I get it.
Well, that's funny. Center cut cakes are funny. But when you tell somebody like, "Oh, we were at the 4-alarm fire," or somebody shot at the rig, or people, we call the 1054, like, or you had to throw hands, like, which was the last resort, and you're like, man, or you're that person, because I know you and I have talked about it, is that like when the madness is going on at work, that's when I was the happiest.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
The more patience or the more fire there was, it was like, oh yeah,
Let's go. Yeah.
Because everything else in my head was gone.
Right. You're focusing on that particular thing. You don't have to worry about anything else, and that makes sense. Yeah.
And that is, and now people, because I'll go all woo on everybody, but that's mindfulness. That's being in the moment. And that's why we were so happy. Because all I was doing was being right in it was fucking chaos, and it might have gone south really fast, but all I was thinking about was the 4 people here, the 8 people there, the people on my crew, and I was 100% engulfed in whatever was going on. I wasn't thinking about the sick dog, the furnace, the toast sweat on the counter. None of those things mattered.
Right.
None of them mattered. Yeah. I saw you at a fire. I'm like, well, we'll figure it out.
Right.
And if it goes south, at least I went there with people I love.
Yeah. But I got to remind everybody that this is a Firehouse Kitchen Table Talk episode. Jeff was the first one to drop
Oh, I thought my bet was Jonesy was going to be the first one.
And I got to remind you guys, we're not like those potty mouths over at New Dog's Old Tricks, so we got to make sure to keep it G-rated. So, but
nice job,
that
Jeff.
does lead to another question, though, because let's say when we're talking about like when we're talking about those fires and things that we can control, because we can eventually control that fire, whether it's on the front end or the back end. We can control the outcome of the patients we're dealing with, because we eventually get to the hospital and they either get better or they die. So let's talk about, as type A personalities, as firefighters, is it in some instances a control issue, because the things that are making us upset outside of the firehouse we can't always control?
Well, yeah, because everything at the house went wrong when I was at the firehouse.
Yes, right, guaranteed. Right, my wife was on the phone. Something's wrong with. Sorry, I'll deal with it tomorrow when I get home. I can't do anything about it right now, though. Yeah. That's a guarantee.
It's a guarantee on the dog.
It's a guarantee.
What the hell am I going to do? I'm at
I'm at work.
Now I got to do all this shit by myself. Well, yeah, because I'm at what? God, see, I'm getting angry now.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ!
I walked you through the breath work again, Josie. But I think too, it's not just firefighters, right? I think it's everybody. It's the road rage. It's whatever gets us angry. Whatever, like if all we have the ability to be is angry. Words are hard. If I'm just angry all the time, that's a red flag. Right, but that's just not firefighters. It's not police. It's the accountants. It's the teachers. It's the garbage man. It's the garbage women. It's wherever. You're just, as my old buddy would say, learning how to live life on life's terms. And that comes back to balance. Like what is the thing? Yep, we get into some really hairy situations. That's when we feel alive. We start to take those hairy situations away.
Yep.
That's the same for just the general public too. I believe like. Ours are a little bit more extreme than others, but that doesn't mean that the teacher, the accountant, or the bank teller doesn't have crappy stuff going on in their life and wants to learn about balance and like just how to make everything a little bit better.
So I'll ask both of you guys. Why do we thrive on that chaos and that being able to control that? And then coming home and going, and just losing your shit because something needs to. I could not, for the life of me. It was. I racked my brain about it, and I can't figure that out.
My thought.
I really can't.
My thought is literally when we would show up to a fire and people are hanging out windows. We know exactly what we have to do. We know how to fix that.
Yeah.
And once the fire's out, or we get those people out, or we get everybody into a paramedic unit and they're on their way to the trauma room.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
Now what's
now
next?
what? Yeah.
Well, now you go home and there's a problem there, and I think sometimes we don't think that problem's going to go away, especially if the problem's your spouse.
Yeah. Sure.
It's like, the firehouse seemed more safe than my home. Because at the
very
firehouse,
true statement.
I could fix things there.
Yep.
Or I had somebody above me in rank that I could go to. Well, when you're at home, what do you go to your mom?
Yeah.
Well, then I got to call her, and then she's going to say she won. No.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think too, the communication matters. I think we talked a little bit, last time, but retirement communication matters. We go into that fire, look left, look right, take care of each other, come out, right, bring it on, it's going to happen again, right? Go back to the firehouse, have the center cut cake. Also, if you messed up, if you messed up at the fire, I can either call you or we're in the same firehouse and you get both barrels. Jonesy, tell me what happened, what went on. And I might use rather colorful, aggressive language, as we've done with each other over the years, right?
Right.
At the end of that conversation, you go, okay, we're going to do that a little bit different next time. We'll do that a little bit better, right? We walk away, we hug, we shake hands, we see you at the next fire, right? If I'm mad at you, I tell you I'm mad at you, and I'm very direct about it, sometimes correctly, sometimes incorrectly. But I can't talk that same way at home. Because if I talk to my wife, if I talk to my significant other the way that I talk to you, I'm going to be living with you.
Yeah.
In the basement.
Yes,
right?
in the basement.
And that's right. That's a thing, because that matters.
Yeah.
And so the other thing that happens is when we're angry all the time. I'll speak for myself. If I'm in that spot where I'm angry all the time, that means everybody's out to get me. That means that the toast sweat on the counter and the breadcrumbs hypothetical situation is done maliciously and with intent.
Yeah.
And they're just doing it to piss me off.
Yeah.
Because I know when I sit down in the firehouse, because an open door makes me crazy, I know my good senior, Joel, I know you did it for 6 years, would open every single cabinet door. That's malicious. Every cabinet door, every time for 6 years. My beautiful bride isn't doing that,
Okay.
right? But that's how I perceive it when we get home.
Yep.
And then she gets the less than pleasant Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
I hope your 2013 recruits hear this so that you can give them PTSD about the door. This is open. This is closed. This is open. This is closed. Close the fucking door.
I never laughed so hard in my life, Bob. That particular story may be slightly exaggerated.
Had not a chance.
See, I didn't know I had a thing about open doors way back then.
Oh yeah. You bringing that up is what triggered it.
I can honestly tell you I have no recollection of that, but you're probably not wrong.
Ask my half ear, one of those guys.
Okay, all right.
You've got a network to rely on, but when it's time to dig, don't forget about your network below ground. Every yard hides underground water, gas, electric, and communication lines that keep you connected. One cut line and the network can go down, or worse. Diggers Hotline has helped protect Wisconsin for 50 years. Contact them 3 or more working days before you dig. Lines are marked for free, keeping your network safe. Be smart. Check before you start. Diggers Hotline.
So now we've covered the kinds of things that trigger us with our mental health issues. And when you talked earlier about, let's say, when someone shows up on a wellness check or anything like that, but how do people go about seeking help for their mental health issues?
There's a lot of different ways. I think the biggest thing that we come down to in the fire service and in Gen Pop really is if we do our best to start to take away the fear of just saying to somebody, hey, I'm having a crappy day, or hey, it's kind of dark right now, that's the big thing. When we start to normalize conversations around behavioral health, that it's okay to see a therapist, that it's okay to see a clinician, that it's okay to tell somebody you haven't slept for 4 nights. When those conversations can become normal, they don't have to be all consuming. It doesn't have to be every conversation around the kitchen table, but the more we start to normalize, hey, that was a crappy run, I haven't been able to get out of my head for 4 days, or hey, I had a really big fight at home and I don't know what to do with the kids and the wife and I'm just left a center, like whatever that is, saying that, if I say to Kevin, I just had a really crappy day, the dog is sick, I'm not feeling right, I don't know what it is, I'm just putting it out there, that takes some of the power of that out of it. That's not to say that some things don't get to a bigger scale, right? But when we normalize the conversations around, hey, I'm having a crappy day, that is to me, that's our first step to trying to get better help for all of our members.
I know we see all these guys with the type A personalities, myself included. I think they struggle with, man, am I going to be a lesser person if I, seek that help, or maybe I'll get better, I'll get over it. There won't be an issue, and I know there are a lot of guys that probably struggle with it that don't come forward, and I don't know how to fix that.
Well, like, let's say one of the simple things, because Kevin, you wanted to be on to talk about retirement,
yes.
And you said after we were done with that episode,
absolutely.
You felt a lot better.
I felt way better after being able to talk about it a little bit. I felt way better, and I'm getting there. Like I said, it's been in a couple of days. It'll be a year, so yeah, it's definitely better than what it was when I first retired. Yeah.
So let's go into that, because what I brought up earlier, and Jeff had mentioned, what were we trained to do? And let's talk about retirement. None of us were trained as to how to deal with the transition into retirement. So should pretty much everything, like you had said, you were on the struggle bus. At some point,
yes,
should
definitely.
everybody be trained on how to deal with every little thing that comes up, because we don't always have the tools to deal with all of the things that occur, even though those things that occur in life happen every day and happen to everybody. Do we need more training on everyday stuff?
Yes. Because I look at, if I hadn't gone to the Center of Excellence prior to retirement, I would be the statistic. If I hadn't been, back in 2018, 2019, because you keep hearing about a lot of retirees within 5 years or less taking their own life because they lost their purpose.
Yes, that's absolutely. I had a purpose, and I feel like I'm a nobody now, right?
Right.
I understand that. Yeah.
Yeah. And if it wasn't for the honor guard, holy crap, it would be terrible for me right now. But I want to say it wasn't just a few months ago that I was talking to Angie that is bartending fun right now? Hell yeah, it is. But what I'm lacking is the adrenaline rush, the chaos. Even when I was racing motorcycles, I mean, that was a new kind of chaos. It was fucking great, right? Because
how did that turn out?
Rockford Memorial and helicopters, thank you. But it was dangerous.
Yeah.
It was dangerous.
It brought you back to what you were used to when you were working.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When you would have that multiple patients or multiple people hanging out of windows and everything in your head just went quiet. And you're like, okay, I know how to take care of this. Then you retire and, there's a lot of guys that even right before they retired, they're like, if I never fight another fire again, I'll be happy. Bullshit.
Oh, that's bullshit. Yeah, we know that's bullshit.
Well, when you get fat, old, and slow, you don't really want to fight fires anymore, so I'm okay with it.
Well, I mean, you're not wrong. But
thanks for affecting my mental health.
That's what I'm here for, apparently. But no, it's that loss of purpose. It's the loss of chaos, and now everything is quiet all the time.
Yeah.
And now we don't know what the hell to do with that.
Yeah.
And
you know what?
So having and I wish, and I don't know if it was to you or to somebody from the IAFF. I was like, I really think that the IAFF health and safety needs to come up with a program that for every local they have somebody that will come out and speak to those who are 5 years or less from retirement.
Absolutely.
And have it be retirees that come in
that can tell you exactly. That's a.
This is what I went through. This is what you're going to go through.
Yeah.
This is what you may feel.
Yeah.
This is how I dealt with it. This is how clinicians say you should deal with it.
Yeah.
But it's finding a different purpose and a new you.
Yep. Yeah.
Without the fire service.
As much as it is nice being able to sleep through the night in your own bed is fantastic. There's also kind of a downside to that as well. It's like I wake up some mornings, I'm like, oh, yeah, I think I slept okay last night. But then those nights when I was at the firehouse and didn't get much sleep, I was okay with that too. Yeah. It's weird. It just everything is much more quiet and like I'm not used to that. I'm getting used to it, but yeah.
And a problem I also see in the fire service is out of sight, out of mind. Mm-hmm. So when somebody goes off the job on duty disability, or they quit, or they retire, or even they're fired, ask somebody about, someone that's left even 6 months. Mm-hmm. Even 6 months ago. And they'll be who? Oh yeah, I forgot about them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
right.
I don't think enough locals or departments do enough for the retirees of bringing them in. A picnic once a year.
You know what? That's funny because I think I want to say it might have been Greenfield just had all the retirees come to the firehouse for like a lunch or something. Great idea. Here's the date. Yeah. Show up. Hey, we still know who we are. Just because you're not here anymore. Yeah.
Yeah. Just even coffee and
yeah.
Because you talk to any firefighter. What are the big three things that they miss? The kitchen table.
Yeah.
Standing around outside after a structure fire, right? Or the time in the bar. It was one of the two.
Yes. Yeah.
But it's the kitchen table that a lot of people miss.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially
definitely.
me.
Yeah. Definitely.
Because that was where I talked the most smack. Okay, maybe most of it.
Most.
But, yeah.
Most. Yeah. So to the retiree thing, when I'm working on something, working on it when we get a few more of the puzzle pieces together, I'll call Kenny and we can talk about kind of what that looks like as far as education for retirees and near retirees. I think the biggest thing that we see, having all gone through it too, is like, I had a plan, we had a plan, we knew what we were going to do, plans change. That's good. The number of retirees that approach retirement that think, when I'm not getting up 3 times after midnight, everything will be better. That stays angry until they walk out the door, and then they walk out the door, they do the salute, they do the thank yous, they have the party afterwards, and then in 2 months you feel like, oh, I was on a PO or I was on vacation for a little bit, and then when did it hit you? Probably like about 4 months, where you're like,
also like, I'm not going back to work.
I'm not going back.
This is really weird, not going back to work.
Right?
Yeah, it was very odd.
And so that's when we start losing our men and women, is that, like, I didn't have a plan because my plan was, there's no more tones, everything will get better after that. But I didn't do anything for my overall health. I survived. All right, I made it through. That was the deal. I made it through the career. All right, cool. That's an accomplishment. But now, what can we do for a better retirement? And those are the things that we start. I know, working in Milwaukee part-time now, that, like, start trying to put that into the recruit classes. It's in the recruit classes. It's in the cadet classes. It's having that conversation throughout the course of a career, so that when we approach retirement, it's not just, hey, the tone stopped, what next?
Right.
Because you're going to wake up in your own bed, right, at 2 o'clock in the morning, waiting for those tones to go off, and go, yeah, this is different, and it is going to suck.
I would say it's probably even more difficult after you retire.
It is.
Than it is.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
The number of guys that I work with that call me after retirement to say, hey, I don't know what to do. I'm like, all right, I do. We can figure some stuff out. Let's get together and have a cup of coffee and figure some things out. But I'm so happy that members are now starting to call a little bit sooner rather than after the fact.
Sure.
Well, let's talk about that whole sense of purpose thing, because as firefighters, we do get to retire earlier than the general population, and because in the past, it's getting a little bit better because we were healthier on the job, so we are living a little bit longer, but we as firefighters will die 10 years earlier than the average person. But we have that time where we're still fairly healthy, we're still fairly young, in our mid-50s. So what kind of things should people be doing that are retiring? And again, dealing with the firefighters, what kind of things should they be doing to maintain that sense of purpose post-retirement?
I think it's important to, if you were physically fit on the job, which I always felt that's what they're paying me for. You know, I'm going to try to stay in the best shape that I can, and super important, I think, after you retire. And I see people doing it. They're like, I don't need to do that anymore. I'm good. No, you gotta stay physically fit and stay active. That for me, that's what that's huge, I think.
And then let's talk about, Kevin, like one of the things that you had done, because you had to take your 75-day separation away from WCTC, so that gave you a little bit more time where you might have been in an adjustment period, but you didn't have a lot of other things going on. What other things can you do to fill in those separations, especially for those of us that had to take our separations from other WRS employers?
Those 75 days were difficult. Those were my days on the struggle bus, for sure. Luckily, it was summertime, and I was able to get out on the bike, put some miles on the bike, do other things, get outside. Anybody that retires in like November, December, I kind of feel bad for them because they're kind of stuck inside and not able to do those things. It did get better after that 75 days went, and I was able to reapply and get my position back at CTC, and I'm glad that I'm back there. It's a couple days a week, and that kind of fills in the voids for me.
Yeah, I would say that you're going to want to have something to do. I mean, it's in Wisconsin. I mean, what do you get? 4 months to ride your motorcycle, which I rode mine today. Just I use it all summer just to get around. But it's that reset. Now, I'm horrible at golf. I'm a better drinker when golfing than actually hitting the damn ball. But, you know, a lot depends
There's a crossover line there. You know, come golf with me.
Yeah, right.
We'll do decaf in the morning.
That sounds terrible. You know, but, so, you know, some people go hiking, some travel, and, you know, some people... You know, it's just finding something you like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
or maybe trying something that new, you know,
Sure.
but you have to find something to do. And some people are like, well, when I retire, I don't want to work anymore. Well, shit, nobody does. But, you know, sometimes you wind up with that part-time job, and then you know, because it gives you something to do,
Yeah.
gets you out of
Yeah,
the house.
absolutely.
You know, but then it becomes work. You know, then it's like, you know, now you're talking to the guys and they're like, hey, we're going to go do this. Oh, no, I got to work.
Yeah, I gotta work,
Well, I
yeah.
thought you were fucking retired. Yeah, I am. Just leave me the hell alone.
Yes.
You know?
Good point. That's a great point.
So I don't think that there's one certain thing that you can tell somebody. You know, it's just finding something that will take your mind off of what you were doing or what you feel you should be doing still, even
Yeah.
though you're retired.
Yeah.
I think too, where a lot of people get kind of jammed up is, like, each of us sat down and talked about, you know, over 25 years in the fire service. So that was a commitment. Like, when I entered, I didn't know it was going to be 25 years. That was the goal,
Sure.
right? I didn't think I was going to be fortunate enough to do that, to get here, much less to do 25, you know, plus years. The next thing you do doesn't necessarily have to be a 25-year commitment. Go walk dogs at the Humane Society for a summer, right? Go read a book to kids. Go do something different. It's not, I think a lot of times when we were so used to, or like, I'll throw you under the bus because it'll segue into my next thing that I've done that my entire career anyway. But
right.
Do something you're passionate about, right? That fills you up. I believe in behavioral health. I believe in mental health. I believe in working with people with addiction issues. Those are things that are important to me. I was able to do that in the fire service and able to do that in retirement. That will always be a part of my life. You were just appointed commander of the Honor Guard for the IFF, right? That's a huge deal. That connection matters, right? So we both ended up in our lanes doing things that we absolutely love to do that gives us purpose even when we only got 4 months to ride the bikes, right? So, but what other things, like you said, find something to do, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be fire service related. I think for all of us, we kind of found that was important to us, but what are the other things that, like, I love golf. I'm horrible at it, but I just golfed with a bunch of buddies for 4 days. I smoked a bunch of cigars, talked a bunch of smack, right? Drank my decaf coffee, and we had a blast. What are the other things that you're going to do so that then you get to keep being the commander, right? I get to keep doing the behavioral stuff, health stuff that I want to do, and you get to find the new things of behavioral health stuff that you want to do.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
those things matter, but not everything has to be a 25-year commitment.
I mean, yeah, it makes sense, you know, and that's why, you know, like with honor guard clinics in schools,
Yeah.
you know, with teaching honor guard classes, you know, we've put mental health, we put peer support into every one of our 3-day clinics now, and you know, I think we're going to have to, you know, talk about maybe with that peer support piece is talking about, you know, finding things to do outside of, you know, especially like for me. I mean, I've been doing honor guard for 25 years now, and I mean, I can only do so many funerals, you know. I quit doing retiree funerals, especially lately, because I'm starting to know more.
You know them.
Yeah, right.
That's kind of scary,
So,
right? Yeah.
you know, you have to find something else as well if you're going to do stuff like the peer support stuff post-retirement or honor guard or whatever, because it's still subjects that are, I don't want to say a downer, but that can bring the mood down, if you will.
Yeah.
So you have to find some other things as well, like riding a motorcycle or golfing or, video games, whatever it is to you. So,
but that kind of that makes my point, right? Both things that you did, firefighting and then honor guard, were huge 25-year deals. Both of them, we all do the things we do because we're passionate about them. They also come with a price. So I think, Kenny, that's the question. If we go all the way back to the beginning of the show, was how do we define mental health? How do we define behavioral health? What are the things that we are willing to do to be healthy in order to do the things that we love to do that may come at a cost? And that can be as simple as all right, getting outside and walking every day. That sounds so stupid. We were laughing. My wife's on 2-a-days now. I'm like, geez, I just got down. I just did 3 miles, and she was talking about going to the gym. I'm like, wait, we did. It's time for breakfast. Why are you going back to the gym?
It's time to eat. This is the time that I eat at. We have to eat now.
This is second breakfast. She doesn't understand the concept of there's breakfast in the firehouse and then 10 o'clock breakfast.
Yes.
And then lunch. Right?
But that's the best part about being in the firehouse.
Right. And then there's 3 o'clock snack, 5 o'clock dinner, 8 o'clock popcorn. No wonder my system's goofed up. Mm-hmm. Went down a rabbit hole. I'm sorry, Kenny, but what are the things? I think that's the question we have to ask ourselves for balance, for retirement, for career longevity. Is all right, you committed to physical fitness, physical health. You're paying me to do this job. Yeah. Also, you're paying me to do this job in the mental health arena. What am I willing to do for mental health? Is that learning how to meditate? Is that taking a class on meditation? Is that learning about mindfulness? Is that learning about breath work? What are the things that I'm willing to do so that I get to do, what can you do to be the commander of the honor guard for as long as you want to be the commander of the honor guard? What are the things I do in order to stay in the position and work with people on addiction issues for as long as I possibly can? Because even though there's some really crappy days, it's still worth it in the end.
All right, so this has been a really, really, really great discussion on Mental Health Awareness Month. So do we have any final thoughts for our 13 loyal listeners?
You didn't pick up any since the last time? Kevin's been here 4 times.
Yes.
He should be accountable for at least 2 more people listening.
Well, you would think, because he is a pretty popular guy. Oh, actually, all the Town of Brookfield guys are all listening to him. But I've had a number of town clowns on before as well. That just doesn't seem to help the listenership.
So I would say, awesome. Thank you for having me back. I love being able to sit down and chop it up. I love seeing Brent here. Final thoughts. We hit some heavy stuff. I would say if you have more questions, 988 is an awesome resource. You could dial 988 for. We talked about suicide awareness and suicide prevention. We've had that topic before, but at the end of the day, reach out, say good morning to somebody, get outside, go for a walk, normalize the conversation around the kitchen table. It's okay to say that you're struggling with something, and not everything has to go to a 5-alarm fire. Don't be afraid to pick up the phone and call somebody, because the odds are whatever you're going through, somebody's already done it, and you don't have to do it alone.
Yeah. Thanks for having me again, Kenny. I appreciate it. Great seeing Jeff. Had not seen Brent for a while. Great seeing him again. A needed topic, something that we've been talking about for a while now. Something that is important in the fire service at this point. I guess my final thought is, if you are struggling and you can't dig yourself out of that hole, call somebody. Or text somebody, or do something. Okay, my phone's always on. Anybody wants to call me, I'm more than willing to listen to you.
I'm really glad that I came on to do this. I'm even more glad I was late. But
nobody knew that. We're pitching to hold you in to make it not seem like you're. Now I got to have you right. I will not be late 100 times on the chalkboard.
I'm okay with that.
He can't write.
If I can't admit my own damn faults, but The biggest thing I'd like to tell everybody is you matter, right? Mm-hmm. Your life matters, and your mental health. If you can't take care of anybody else if you're not taking care of yourself, you really can't. And definitely. It took me a long time and a lot of talks with Jeff and with a few other people that your family needs you, the fire service needs you, and talk to someone.
We would like to thank Jeff Gauthier, Kevin Brode, and Brent Jones for the interview about mental health. For more information, you can visit the NAMI website, www.nami.org. Join us on our next episode when we're back with Kevin Brode in the former WIBD format. WPLG 715, Fireman Kenny is returning to quarters.
Working together with first responders throughout southeast Wisconsin, you can help keep our communities safe. They answer the call to be there for you whenever needed. 96.5 WKLH proudly salutes our first responders. Here's another important message from West Bend Fire Department Captain Kenny Aslin on Milwaukee's Hometown Rock.
Everybody is excited to enjoy another Wisconsin summer by swimming in lakes, rivers, and pools. Sadly, over 3,000 drownings occur each year. In fact, drowning is the number one cause of death for children ages 1 to 4. Always be sure to supervise kids when they are in or around the water. Install fences around home pools. Always wear a life jacket when in a boat. And avoid alcohol when swimming or boating. Please, always make water safety your highest priority to reduce drownings and have a safe summer.
96.5 WKLH proudly salutes our first responders. Get more information and links to first responders throughout southeast Wisconsin online now at WKLH.com.